She laughed differently when she talked to you. A low, almost shy little laugh, the kind she doesn't give just anyone. Did you notice that? Or were you too busy assuming you didn't stand a chance? Stop everything for a second. If you're an older guy and there's a younger woman around you, at work, at the gym, on social media, I need the next few minutes from you, because I'm about to show you 10 signs that 90% of men never pick up on. And listen, I'm not going to give you that recycled internet advice like, she plays with her hair around you. Everyone already knows that one, and it doesn't tell you anything real. I'm going deeper, into things most people simply don't have the emotional literacy to notice. Let me tell you quickly why I decided to make this video. I watched someone close to me lose a person who mattered, simply because he couldn't read signs that were sitting right in front of him, day after day, for months. And the hardest part wasn't that he lost her. It was that he found out afterward too late, that the signs had been there the entire time. That stayed with me for a long time, and that's exactly why I'm bringing this to you today, so it doesn't happen to you too. Stay with me until the end, because sign number 7 always sparks the biggest conversation in the comments whenever I talk about it, and number 10, honestly, is the one almost nobody even considers, because insecurity about age blinds people more than anything else. Before I go on, I want something from you. Comment right now, before I even get to the first sign. How many years apart are you and the person who just popped into your head the moment I started talking? Don't overthink it, just type the number. I'll be reading. All right, let's really get into it. The first sign is this. She tests your sense of humor before she tests your character. And let me show you how that actually looks in real life, because it never comes with a warning label. It comes disguised as a silly little joke. Here's a very common example. You show up somewhere, maybe a casual get-together, wearing something you feel really good in, and she tosses out a line like, "Wow, look at you today. Who's the lucky lady?" It sounds like teasing, maybe even a little mocking, but watch closely what happens next, because she's waiting to see how you react. If you freeze up, get self-conscious, or worse, take it personally and get defensive, she pulls back. But if you play along, easy and warm, something like, "And I haven't even put on the good cologne yet," the whole mood shifts. She relaxes, and her smile changes into something softer, something more open. I want to tell you a quick story that captures this perfectly. A friend of mine, a bit older than a coworker of his, was constantly the target of her teasing. She'd mimic the overly formal way he spoke in meetings, imitate the little throat clear he did before presenting, even make fun of the same coffee order he got every single morning. He genuinely believed, without a shadow of doubt, that this meant she wasn't interested at all, that she was just having fun at his expense. It took months, actual months, for someone outside the situation to point out the obvious. Nobody spends that much energy every single day building nicknames and inside jokes about someone they don't care about. That takes emotional effort. A man who can laugh at himself, who takes the joke without getting defensive and tosses one right back, signals real security, and that's rare. And rare is magnetic. Now I need you to pause for 1 second. Really pause. Think about a younger woman who teases you often, who finds any excuse to poke fun at some little detail about you. Got someone in mind? Good. Hold on to that thought because we're coming back to it later in this video. The second sign connects directly to the first. She remembers little details you don't even remember saying. Let me give you a very specific example so you can spot this in your own life. Say you mentioned, just in passing, 3 weeks ago, that you don't like cilantro. That's it. One throwaway line buried in another conversation. 3 weeks later, you're deciding where to grab dinner, and she suggests a place and adds, without you asking anything, that spot barely uses cilantro in anything, so it'll be easy for you. You didn't even remember saying that. She did. She filed it away and brought it back at exactly the right moment, casually, like it was nothing. That's not coincidence, and I want you to really sit with this. The human brain doesn't archive random details about random people. It archives details about people who matter. It's selective, it's mentally expensive, and it only does that for someone who carries some emotional weight. A sports team you mentioned once, a relative's birthday you brought up briefly, even the exact way you take your coffee. All of that becomes stored information the moment real interest is present. Let me be honest with you for a second. I lived through this myself, and it took me a while to understand what was actually happening. Someone kept every little detail I ever mentioned, dates, names, silly jokes, things I had already forgotten myself, And I, being completely naive about it, assumed it was just politeness, just someone who happened to be a good listener. It wasn't. It became one of the biggest lessons I ever learned about how people show interest without ever saying it out loud. The third sign tends to bother people watching, because it hits right at the insecurity a lot of men carry quietly. She shows jealousy disguised as curiosity. Let me walk you through a practical example, because on paper it sounds simple, but in the moment, most men completely miss it. You post a photo, a coworker comments with a little heart emoji, and 5 minutes later she texts you asking, "Who's that? Are you too close?" in a tone that sounds light, almost thrown in casually, like she's just making conversation. But notice the timing. 5 minutes. Not a day later. Not slipped into some other unrelated conversation. Fast, direct, straight to the point, and that timing gives away exactly what's underneath the question. Real jealousy isn't dramatic, like in the movies. It's quiet, it's quick, and it hides behind, "Oh, I was just curious." If you've made it this far, I need you to do 2 quick things for me. Hit the like button right now. It genuinely helps this video reach more people who need to hear this. And tell me in the comments, has any of these first 3 signs already happened to you, and you're only realizing it right now while I'm talking? Sign number 4 is almost invisible unless you know exactly what to look for. She starts mirroring your tone of voice and the way you speak. In psychology, this actually has a name. It's called behavioral mimicry, and it happens completely unconsciously when there's genuine emotional connection. Here's a simple way to spot it. If you have a phrase you always use, something like "all right then" to wrap up a topic, or a specific way you start sentences, notice if she starts using that same phrasing when she talks to you, or even when she talks about you to someone else. The body imitates before the mind admits what it's feeling. The 5th sign. She looks for small, forgettable excuses to stay a little longer. Here's what that looks like in real life. The conversation has already run its course. You've both said everything there was to say in that moment, and she still throws in one more question. Something like, "Wait, tell me again how that trip went last year." A question she already asked before, or already knows the answer to. Or maybe she takes forever gathering her things to leave, fidgeting with her phone, adjusting her bag a little too slowly to be natural. This is emotional strategy wearing the disguise of coincidence. Nobody, and I mean nobody, invents reasons to linger around someone who doesn't stir something in them. The 6th sign, and I need you to look right at the screen for this one, because I'm asking you directly. Have you ever seen a younger woman get visibly uncomfortable when you casually mentioned another woman? Take a moment. Really think about it before you answer. Let me paint the picture. You mention, with zero intention behind it, that a friend of yours is really funny, and you two always have a great time together. Watch her reaction in that exact moment. The smile gets a little tight. She changes the subject too quickly, or she gives a flat, "Oh, that's nice," and doesn't carry the conversation forward. That's sign 6. Discomfort quietly hiding behind indifference whenever another woman comes up. Hold on to that observation, because it tends to be far more honest than anything spoken out loud. We're right at the halfway point now. If this is resonating with you so far, type the word "present" down in the comments. I want to know exactly who's still with me, because the next 4 signs are the ones almost nobody talks about. And that's exactly why most men never learn to look for them. The 7th sign, and honestly, no exaggeration, this is the one that sparks the most conversation every single time I bring it up. She values your opinion more than the opinion of friends her own age. Here's a real example. She's deciding whether to take a new job, or move to a different city, or even something as small as switching cars. She has plenty of friends her own age to talk it through with, but the person she goes to first, before anyone else, is you. That happens because she sees in you a kind of judgment that feels steadier, more grounded, and that carries far more emotional weight than it seems on the surface. I once heard from a man who only realized this when a mutual friend pointed out the obvious right to his face. Notice how she always asks you before she asks anyone else. And when someone outside the situation sees it before you do, it's usually been happening for a lot longer than you think. The 8th sign. She opens up emotionally sooner than you'd typically expect this early on. Let me give you a real picture of how this shows up. You're talking about something completely ordinary, work, weekend plans, and suddenly she shifts into something heavier, maybe a family conflict, or an insecurity she's been carrying quietly, something that would normally take months to share with someone. And she brings it up early, unprompted, no hesitation. This is a kind of unconscious test she isn't even fully aware she's running. She's watching how you respond to her being vulnerable. Do you lean in, or do you get uncomfortable and change the subject? Think fast, no filter. How did you respond the last time someone younger opened up to you like that? Whatever answer just came to your mind says a lot about where things actually stand. The 9th sign, and I'll admit this one's my favorite, because it's the easiest of all to confirm. She builds little rituals with you. Inside jokes, nicknames, references that belong only to the two of you and to nobody else in the world. It could be a specific way you say goodbye, an emoji that's become just yours, a silly word that turned into a private code after something funny happened between you. This is intimacy quietly being built, a shared language, a world made just for two people. If something like that already exists between you and someone younger, stop for a second and really think about it, because that alone is reason enough to pay closer attention. And here we are, at the 10th sign. The one I warned you at the start was going to sting a little, and it will. She gets quietly bothered when you put yourself down about your age. Picture this. You're in a light, easy conversation, and you toss out something like, I'm too old to keep up with all this modern stuff you all do. A throwaway line, almost automatic. And she cuts you off in a way that catches you off guard. Something like, stop saying that, you are not old, with a seriousness that doesn't match the joking tone you used. That's not a coincidence. That's someone quietly defending a person she genuinely values, without even realizing she's doing it. When someone defends you from yourself, pay attention, because that's rare, and rare always matters. Now I want an honest answer from you. How many of these 10 signs did you recognize in someone, right now or at some point in the past? Type the number down in the comments this very moment. I read every single one, and sometimes I personally reply to whoever shares the full story. If this video opened your eyes to something you hadn't noticed before, hit that like button right now, because it genuinely determines whether more people get to see this. Subscribe to the channel right now too, because every week I bring you signs just like these. No fluff, straight to the point. Made for someone who's lived enough of life to know that real attention means so much more than any rehearsed line ever could. I want to leave you with one last thought before we wrap up. Age was never the problem, and it never will be. The real problem has always been, and will always be, not having the emotional fluency to read what's already right in front of you. You just walked away from this video with 10 tools most people never get access to. What you do with that from here is entirely up to you. I'll see you in the next one.